We talk about Gaza on a weekly basis in this chamber, and it's right and proper that we do, because you can get emotional about it, because every time a child dies, it's a harrowing experience. But you have to look at it in a more balanced way in terms of trying to get something done, and that's what this bill is attempting to do. It's trying to put pressure on the Irish government to make the Irish Central Bank do something that we, the state, don't necessarily want to do, that our European Union partners don't necessarily want us to do. But sometimes, and I'll get onto this in a while, Minister, sometimes even if something is, in your view, not technically possible, that doesn't mean that you don't try it up as far as the point where it's proven not to be technically possible. So I do take on board some of what you said earlier in terms of the barriers that may exist to this bill being passed. But I fundamentally disagree with not supporting it being brought to committee in further stages where it could be amended to the point where it could be workable, either within the existing parameters of European Union law, or else enactable at such a point when the European Union does so decide. And at least we have an act ready to go. Because the figures keep adding up. As of today, there's now 56,000 people, and over 54,000 of them are Palestinians who've been killed since this phase of this never-ending conflict commenced on October 7, 2023, and 1,706 Israelis, many of them civilians. But in terms of civilians that have been killed, the estimates from independent sources are, and this is from journalists, academics, various sources, that 80% of those killed on the Palestinian side are civilians. Then you've got the employees of UNRWA, other humanitarian aid workers. We nearly had a couple of Irish diplomats killed recently. And basically, and I just want to correct the record, the Commissioner for Human Rights said it was 70% of Palestinians, sorry, 80% of Palestinians that were killed were civilians, but they added that 70% of the Palestinians killed in residential buildings or similar types of housing were women and children. They were not combatants. They were not proxy fighters who volunteered for the cause to stand alongside Hamas militants just so the Israelis could bomb them. They're innocent civilians, and we've long since passed the threshold, as I said before, of genocide. I described it, and I'm standing by my words, as another Holocaust in my last contribution, because it is what I said, a sanitized mass extermination over a period of time. And sometimes the information can be slightly wrong. In my speech, I mentioned that up to 14,000 babies were at risk of being killed, some of them, or many of them, within the next 48 hours. So I had read the conflicting reports in terms of the actual figures, but Tom Fletcher did get a lot of criticism because he said they were going to all die imminently. And the Israelis jumped on this. They said this is fake news, this is a lie. It's not a lie, it's a correction of information that said that there would be about 70,000 cases of acute malnutrition of children aged 6 to 59 months between April 2025 and March 2026, including 14,100 severe cases, and a severe case is at risk of dying at any stage. So while Mr. Fletcher wasn't absolutely accurate in terms of 48 hours, those 14,000 babies' lives are still at risk, as one of my colleagues mentioned in this chamber earlier. But the Israeli government, regime, call it what you will, because it's democratically elected, but it's certainly not living up to the aspirations of any rational democracy, they jump on that. They paint the Irish as the biggest Jew haters in Europe, if not the world. But the facts are that since the establishment of the Israeli state, the Irish people have been among some of the greatest supporters of Israel, until Israel turned into a pariah state. Now, I just want to point out that there is a need for balance, and I always feel obliged to put it on the record when I'm talking, that you have to kind of look at different angles from different sides. So yes, Hamas are a fundamentalist terrorist organisation who have killed people for being LGBT, for example, who want to see the Israeli people and the entire Israeli state destroyed. And I and others have no truck for regimes like Hamas. Equally, though, there's fundamentalist settlers in the West Bank, and the Israeli state has facilitated them in planting in different parts of the West Bank in such a way that makes the Palestinian West Bank state joined with Gaza, a two-state solution, more and more unviable. And they're doing that because of their fundamentalist religious beliefs. And it's religious fundamentalists that kind of hold the strings of the Israeli government. Equally, we have our own fundamentalists, because I remember back in the times of the Troubles in the North, you had Republicans and Loyalists using proxy bombs, where they would get individuals, by threat to death to their family, strap them to a van with explosives in an effort to try and blow up usually British soldiers. So they said, well, this is a legitimate cause. Or on the Loyalist side, they had other legitimate causes, be it the attempt on the life of a Garda, for example. And this was all done in the belief that their supreme cause was worth taking innocent lives. And that type of fundamentalism eventually did evolve into the Irish peace process, and credit is due to all those involved, including Sinn Féin, who've proposed this motion. And the peace process in Ireland highlighted the fact that there were differing views, some that may never be totally reconciled, but they came to an accommodation. Similarly with the South African peace and reconciliation, where you had different sides having to come to an accommodation. Similarly in Rwanda, as was referenced before. And the reason I'm talking about all this is because this war, this conflict, which has now morphed into this genocide on the Israeli side, is never ending. And it will only stop when the fundamentalists on both sides realise it's a zero-sum game. That all they're going to do is keep killing and killing and killing, and my argument may be purer than yours, and it is a fact, as I've said before and I'll say again, that more Palestinians have been killed throughout the lifetime of this decades, almost a century-long conflict than Israelis. But any life is a precious life, and that's why I'll always condemn the October 7th attacks. I'll always say that I love the Israeli people, that I recognise the right of the Israeli state to exist, but Jesus, as well as loving the Palestinians, we have to feel for them. And we have to do everything in our power as a state, because it's a moral obligation. So going back, Minister, to what you said about the bill, the Central Bank of Ireland was quoted recently as saying that by approving a bond prospectus, it doesn't endorse the issuer or the securities. There's just a little technicality. I forget which speaker it was. It might have been Deputy National, not 100%, who mentioned the Israel designating us as a home country. Maybe it's because we're English-speaking in Akalesh or Teanga Nordorta on Gaelga, or maybe it's because they wanted us to see us squirm as that designated country, given the fact that we had called them out before. Either way, we've gone from being a home financial base of choice for the sale of bonds to being one of the biggest anti-Israeli countries in Europe. We're not anti-Israel, we're anti-Israeli policy and Israeli massacring of innocent civilians. And in this context, Minister, why can you not facilitate this bill to the committee stage, even onwards, and get it passed with a provision inserted that this is all subject to the European Union making that decision? That sends out a strong and powerful message that we are good to go when it is legally and technically possible to enact this. If you truly believe that it's not enactable, at least bring it to that point. And you have to remember, we also have a president who can agree or disagree with the advice of the Attorney General, with the Council of State, and decide whether or not legislation that's passed is legitimate. And for all his righteous condemnation of Israeli atrocities over the years, The one thing President Higgins upholds more than anything else is our Constitution and the rule of law. So I have absolutely no doubt that the President and the advisors, if asked, will make the right decision, the right call on this. But we shouldn't end this prematurely. We should let it go, let's have the debate, amend it as best you can see fit, and then have it ready to be enacted if necessary, if possible. To do otherwise does unfortunately lend credence that for all its praise in terms of the Court of Justice and the fact that the Israeli government continues to criticise the Irish government and the ambassador has left here, for all that, we're still given the effect that we're a little bit of a paper tiger. This is the Irish Central Bank on behalf of the European Union. We have a little bit of clout. Let's see how far we can push it. So that's why I commend this bill. And I'm not a legal expert in terms of knowing whether or not it's enforceable fully or not, but I commend this bill. Let's see where it goes. And I ask you, Minister, is there any reason why you can't do that?